Okay guys, we were tagged by the Homestead to do the good, the bad, and the ugly collaboration. And pretty much all it is a walkthrough of our garden and showing you that nobody has a perfect garden. There's good things, there's bad things, and then there's ugly things. And trust me, we have all of them. So come on.
Come on, guys.
Alright guys, we're going to start with the good in the garden, and there's not a whole lot of that going on this year for us. One good thing is all of these pollinators. These flowers are zinnias, a mix of different ones, and we actually planted them last year and they reseeded all around the garden, and we didn't really want them just sporadically, but I couldn't just kill them out. So I dug them up and I planted them all along the front of the garden so that you could see them from the road and that they would just be real vibrant. They bush out and they're perfect for cutting, but look at all of the pollinators coming through. Just butterflies everywhere you look, and that is really good for the garden. Another one of the goods would have to be all of the fruits and vegetables that we are finally able to harvest. We have peppers coming in, cucumbers everywhere, lots of tomatoes turning red, okra, beans, melons popping up left and right, and the children's favorite, ground cherries. Okay, so now that you've seen the good, let's take a look at the bad in this garden. Our garden has been a fight with weeds all year long, all year. And do you see all this cardboard we're starting to put down everywhere? We have been doing a lot of de-weeding back here, and it's just taking forever. The grass was nearly as tall as my waist, and I'm 5'4", just to give you guys an idea of that. The weeds are just blowing us away in here. So it looks a little ugly, but it's something that you have to deal with in the garden. Weeds are gonna just plant themselves wherever they want. They pop up, and it's honestly like, it doesn't matter what the weather is like, they are resilient. It can be dire heat and all of our vegetables trying to die out, and the weeds are like, hey guys, how you doing? Or it can be freezing cold and the weeds are like, oh hey, how you doing? We're here still. All of this cardboard. It's kind of a sight for sore eyes when you're walking through a real pretty garden. Eventually, hopefully, we'll have it covered up, but for now, this is gonna have to work. When we were de-weeding all of this, I was actually saying it's similar to doing the dishes, only throwing half of the dishes away, because we laid the cardboard and hid a lot of the weeds underneath the cardboard to just smother it out, and then we picked the weeds along the rows where our vegetables are actually planted. So up there and all along right here where our peanuts are. You couldn't even see our peanuts, honestly. Another bad for us is the decision to put our loofah gourds on this back wall of the garden. We were thinking putting it down here, since they're so big, it would give them plenty of room, but we misjudged how much they were going to spread out. Last year we had them up on our teepee and they did really good, but when the wind came, the teepee fell over because they were top heavy. This year we decided to put them along this fence, and it may look really pretty, but it's kind of a hassle to get to them. It's hard to see them, and they're tearing down our chicken fence. They've even made their way to the back jungle that we call a backyard. So harvesting these is going to be real fun this year. We're going to be digging all over the place, looking through all of this mess back here for loofahs. So I think next year we'll probably go back to that teepee idea and maybe make the teepee a little more structurally sound before. Now let's get into that ugly we were talking about earlier. A lot of people think different things are ugly, and for us, the ugly in our garden is the damage from the pests. So if you guys have been watching us for a while, you may know last year we fought squash bugs hard. So hard that our neighbors probably thought I was a crackhead because I was out here with a vacuum cleaner, sucking those things right off the plants. Well, this year, they're back. But we know exactly what we're looking for. So we've been battling them, but I think that we're doing a way better job this year. We've noticed them right off the bat, and we've seen little to no eggs. We keep finding them mating and squash them as quick as we possibly can. But we still have some damage from not only that, the insane heat that we had with like 0 rain for a while, and we have a little wild rabbit that thinks that our beans is its lunch, breakfast, dinner, and dessert. So let me show you the damage, the ugly of the garden. All right, this melon plant, this is our tiger melon, and this damage down here started about 2 weeks ago when we started seeing the squash bugs. We're afraid we're gonna lose our melons. They're so close. I mean, look how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, they're everywhere. 8, 9, 10, 11. I don't even know. But we're afraid we're going to lose them because look at all of this damage down here. It's like a wasteland in the bottom. It's healthier up top, but the signs are spreading. And the beginnings are starting to die off. The tops of the plants are getting infected. And what squash bugs do is pretty much suck the nutrients right out of the plant. And they'll have their eggs, they'll lay their eggs on the bottoms of your leaves here, and then it'll be 20, 50 eggs. And out of nowhere, those eggs hatch, and then they devour the plant in a matter of days or even hours. But that's just one melon plant that's starting to suffer. Come over here, and our Kajari melons are also suffering. And there are multiple of them. Look, there's a ripe one, but it's also got bug damage. Do you see the damage on this plant? Something is devouring our plants. And although we don't see eggs from the squash bugs, we see the damage that they're leaving behind. It makes us pretty sad because we were looking forward to trying both of these melons. Fingers crossed we get some and we put these squash bugs to rest. But that's just something you have to deal with in gardens. Things are just getting bad in here with these bugs. This bug is massive. Here is our ugly cucumbers. Yeah, it's sad. It looks pitiful. The whole bottom half is pretty much just gone. Looks sad and straggly and kind of like they're all just gonna die. And if they do, they do. we at least got to make some relish, and we have some cucumbers for pickles. But this is what happened when the heat set in. We were watering daily, but it was still getting way too hot for our cucumbers. And it really almost wiped them out completely. And look, this happens right here, this malformation of the cucumber. That happens when it gets too hot or they don't have enough water. Sad, but what can you expect? It's the middle of the summer. There's not really anything we can do about the heat. These are our black beans. So lush, other than a few bug holes because we have those Japanese beetles eating them and they're loving it up. But do you see all these beans in here? So these are a dry bean, so we just leave them on the plant until they all dry out, and then we pick them all and then take them in, break them open, and store the seeds. Or the beans, I guess. Well, all of these were looking real good until the other day when a rabbit decided it needed to have dinner and lunch and breakfast and dessert, and it ate almost all of our beans. So we lost our beans, or at least most of them. Luckily, we have a pretty long growing season, so we'll be able to plant more beans before it's too late. And we did get at least a little bit of a harvest. Our noodle beans did awesome. I guess the rabbit doesn't like noodle beans, which is a plus for us. But it really liked our burgundy bush beans, our black beans, and even our green beans. So we kind of were at a loss for a minute for those. But all in all, I'd say our garden is doing decent. There's some good years, there's some bad years. I wouldn't say this is a terrible year for the garden, but I will say it's been slow. All of our stuff we are harvesting later, it seems, than we did last year. Not by a whole lot, but by a little bit. And I'm going to chalk that up to we had a late frost and even a frost after our last frost date. So I waited a while to put anything out so we didn't lose anything extra. Then we got hit with floods for our spring. So all of that rain really set our plants back. And then once the floods were gone, it was like a desert here. It's a learning experience in the garden. There's always good, there's always bad, and there's definitely always some ugly. I even have a graveyard of plants that never even made it into the ground this year because there was just so much rain when it was time to plant. And then by the time the rain was over, it was just too hot to get them into the ground anymore. So fingers crossed, these bugs will leave us alone. We'll get some melons, we'll get some more beans in the ground and actually have some beans to harvest and jar for the winter. And we'll be able to find all those loofahs we planted down there. If you have not already done the collaboration and you would like to do the collaboration, you should join in on it. It's just the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we have to tag someone, so we're going to tag Burton Family Farm and Homesteading and Sandy's Adventures.